the Ravens are getting an F because I'm just like, we talked about it on the pod earlier too. It's like, I have so much respect for Harbaugh, and I just can't believe that this is happening. And granted, it's probably more the front office's fault than him because he would love to have Lamar Jackson back, I'm sure. But they've also just been a good organization for like my entire life, it seems like doing the right things, handling it correctly. And I don't know, this is a very poorly managed situation, and yeah, it doesn't look good for them.
To your point, they've literally basically been around almost, if I'm not mistaken, basically our entire like lives. Like I think they were pretty much at the same time when we were born around. So yeah, like they have never been like a mistake making franchise. Eric DeCosta's been consistent until recently, and he's fallen off the rails. That's the first thing. I don't know what Eric DeCosta's thinking. And number two, this feels like one of those times where you look at a franchise from afar and you're like, that is about to be a big era change. So they're going to find a way to scapegoat John Harbaugh once things start falling off the rails when they don't pay Lamar. Then the GM's next.
I'd be so disappointed.
And then you got a whole new Ravens franchise. And I think that's almost like what this feels like. Because again, this is one of those times where you're going to look back and say the grass isn't always greener on the other side, where it's like, yeah, paying Lamar a lot kind of sucks. And yeah, there's a lot of contingencies with that. But then they're going to be, I guarantee you, we'll look back and listen 3 or 4 years when the Ravens are still. This is a strong prediction, but I just feel like it's kind of where we're headed with them, where it's like they will still be getting back into gear. And then we're going to say like, well, yeah, you should have paid Lamar. He was the guy that would have kept everything rolling. He is literally that guy, where he's the X factor on the team. He'll find a way to at least make the game competitive. And that's what they're giving up on.
Also, just to read off their moves this offseason, they gave Lamar Jackson the non-exclusive franchise tag. They re-signed Justice Hill. They signed Nelson Eckler. They re-signed Trayvon Mullen and re-signed Geno Stone. So they made like 5 moves, and the biggest thing was the wide receiver room. And they signed Nelson Eckler. That was it. I know they don't have a lot of cap space, but I don't know. It's bad.
No, it's like genuinely, it's actually like troublesome and makes no sense at the same time. I'm telling you more and more, my theory from last year is coming to fruition, that these motherfuckers literally willingly didn't give Lamar a receiver for all these years just to try to pay him less than he was worth. And now he's not taking that shit and they're screwed. So I'm just saying, like, that's why I think the Ravens really are in one of these. I mean, they're in a dire position. Really, what do we see the Ravens doing this year? We saw how that, not to tell how they can't hold it down and kind of make it close, but it's not the same thing. And regardless, the Ravens offense really doesn't put up a lot of points. If the defense gets worse, and, people get older, lose a few guys, it's like, where are the Ravens going?
Well,
down.
Also, I think they let go of Calais Campbell too, I believe. And then I don't know. I think also just to say this, like, it also looks worse that you traded for Roquan Smith, gave a second and a fifth, and then you give him 5 years, $100 million, and you can't go get a receiver. Like, regardless of like how you like, look at how these receivers are being valued right now. Pennies on the dollar. Like, you can get a good receiver for cheap. Look at Elijah Moore. I know that's a situation like in a vacuum because it's all dependent on the Aaron Rodgers trying to clear room for, receivers are bringing in. But when you see what receivers are going, Brandon Cooks for a fifth and a sixth, I think, and you can't get Lamar a single guy, like at that point, the organization is just not doing what it needs to do.
Well, I think they really screwed themselves over with cap space too, because like right now they have, where are they? $6 million in cap space. And I know when free agency first started, they didn't have a lot either. I think that's probably why they made like close to no moves. But like at that point, you got to like trade away some draft stock to get a guy like on a cheaper side. And maybe you have to give a higher pick, but like you got to do something to make it worthwhile for Lamar, or for him to be like, okay, they're actually putting in an effort. Maybe I'll sign for a little bit less than I wanted to. And like, because they're treating me right. But like, they have done nothing.
No, right. And like, last thing about the Ravens, we'll move on. But to Hunter's point about, Roquan, I don't understand at all the thought process of let's make this guy the highest paid linebacker in the league, which is essentially in today's era of football. I don't mean this disrespectfully. It's just true. Essentially the like least, I don't want to say least important, but the most replaceable position on a defense. So it's like we're taking the most replaceable position, making him the highest paid, and we don't even really have much of a plan on the defense. The offense is terrible. And linebackers just don't really, they're not the essential defender usually to winning games. And it's like, that's kind of why I'm just saying, it's like they paid him the premium first, and there's no plan to win playoff games in place. Yeah. He will be old by the time that the Ravens are in place to go win a Super Bowl at this rate. So it's like, I don't understand what they were thinking. No one does. This was a GM disaster class by Eric DeCosta, and there's just no two ways about it.
Yeah, I think he just messed up and like now they're in this spot and there's like nothing to do really.
Yeah, no, that's exactly where they're at. So F for the Ravens.